Yes.
So this goes out live.
No, it doesn't.
Okay.
We should.
I was just
You would
suddenly
be
game
dead.
on.
We should go out live, lads. Should we?
I do a live stream every now and then.
Yeah.
And, what I've done on the live stream is I'm posting it to YouTube, and I have my phone set up and it's going out live on Instagram and it's going out live on TikTok all at the same time. And,
Gavin, sorry to interrupt you. Can you point that microphone at your mouth?
like
Oh
that.
yeah.
Is that better?
Is Gavin's microphone better? So it's just like a fist away from your mouth.
Yeah, that
Is
looks
that
good.
about right?
Let me hear Gavin's. Oh, sorry, Kevin. Can you just talk there?
Testing 1 2 3.
Is he correct volume?
I think I'll adjust it as we go.
Because yours sounds louder than Gavin's.
Yeah, I just turned up his volume there a bit.
Yeah.
Is it good now? Oh yeah.
Is it good?
That sounds better in my ears.
Is it, Jack,
Yeah,
Daniel?
I think so as well.
Come on, lads.
Yeah,
My boys.
I'll adjust it anyway.
This is all part of the podcast, folks. This is the behind-the-scenes stuff, you know what I mean? Because sound is so important. The amount of gigs I've done where the sound has been shit. I just did a gig recently in the north side somewhere.
And nobody heard
And
you.
the sound, well, they did hear me, but the sound was just awful. And then you talk to the people organising it and you start asking, can you fix the sound? And they start looking at you like you're
difficult.
You're difficult.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
no, because that's I'm trying to tip the balance in the favour of the gig doing well, you stupid bastards.
But one has to speak in order to hear the sound.
Okay, Revolution, thank you. Okay, this, I should get sponsored by Lucas. Do you want to just Oh, Christ.
It's fine.
What about Hannah's what?
Well, we don't have Hannah's shot.
You don't have
It
Hannah's
doesn't-
shot?
Yeah, but it's the
That
wide
doesn't
shot. It's
matter.
fine. It's the wide
Oh,
shot.
shit. Oh, yeah, fuck, we don't have the...
But just use the wide
So
shot.
this camera
Oh,
here,
shit,
this
yeah.
one, and
Sorry,
that
it
one.
should be that one.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
just
no.
use the wide shot. It's fine. Come on.
Or will I just zoom into Hannah and just have, maybe that's the thing. And
No,
and just fuck the wide shot.
Just keep the wide shot. It's better just to have the wide shot. Then
Well,
Yeah.
I'll put it on the wide shot every time Hannah talks.
yeah. Come on, just go
Yeah,
on.
David,
go on,
because you know, time is precious. David has an important meeting. At
Oh,
5.
fuck me, Hannah. Honestly.
Are we recording?
Do we
recording?
want to talk about something
Are we
else with
recording?
Gavin? Do we want to tell something else? So we've all got skeletons
Yeah.
in the closet. Sorry, Gavin. Okay, Jack, Daniel, can you introduce this podcast, please?
And that's why we're not together.
Okay, go on. Daniel.
That's what the name of the podcast is, and that's why we're not together. So
Okay.
that's our little-
Original. yeah.
Okay, Daniel or Jack. Oh, sorry, you're introducing it. Yeah, go on.
Okay, we're going. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to And That's Why We're Not Together, starring David McSavage, Hannah Andrews, and special guest Gavin Gallagher.
And welcome back, Jack, and welcome back, Daniel. I can't believe we don't have a single shot on Hannah.
I'm not important.
No, but you are
obviously.
very, very important, and we just realised that. You know what I mean? Because I wasn't thinking straight. Why didn't? Okay, Gavin, thank you very much for coming. It's kind of unusual because we rarely have guests or guests with who are good guests. I'm not saying that comedians aren't good guests, but they're not as
Interesting.
Yeah.
Different type of guest with a big background and story and
So
money.
Well, Gavin, you got into property. How would you say property developing? And I just read in your bio that I think the first thing you bought shot up.
Yeah.
It increased its value 5 times in 4 months.
Yeah.
It's very exciting when that stuff happens.
It is, but it also one of the things that I try to kind of share is that when you get sort of blessed with that kind of windfall, it can go to the head and it can start making you think that you're a genius, and and that's what happened to me. And
you feel that it's always going to go up.
Well, yeah, you get I see a lot of young, particularly young men, and they kind of get intoxicated by things like, say, crypto and stuff. And what I see happening in, say, the crypto space or a stock market and stuff is exactly what happened in the property space. And if you go back to the 1990s, like the early 90s, there started to be the boom. The beginning of the boom was say 91, 92.
The boom
after there was in property prices.
Oh, sorry.
Because if you go back to 1991, we had just come out of the currency crisis that had affected the UK and everything like that. and Ireland was kind of a backwater, and then suddenly its property boom started to kind of like take off, and you had inward investment coming in the form of IBM and like Apple computers and all of these, and Ireland started to kind of roar at that point, and the property market suddenly started to rip, and I remember like annual increases in the prices of about 25% at one stage. And everyone was just like, it doesn't matter what you buy.
What year was this?
This was from around 92, 93 onwards. And I can remember, because I was studying at the time, and I remember, being interested but not having any money to do it, and seeing kind of like people making money and stuff, like thinking, I need to be a part of this. I want to get in on this. And I can remember this kind of youthful exuberance and sort of like, okay, I'm going to make my first investment. And I bought this place for 25 grand. I went and I got planning permission on it. So it went from being an acre of land that had cattle grazing on it to an acre of land with the planning permission for 4 houses on it. So all I did was just get a piece of paper that says you can now build on it. And I sold it for 125,000. And it was all in the space of a few months. And in that very same time period, I was working as a young architect, and I was working for 8 grand, basically a whole year of work for 8 grand, and then 100,000 profit in a few months. And I suddenly went, okay, I know where my efforts should be put. And it took off from that point.
Well, it is, people forget how shite Ireland was in the 80s. Well, I mean, because everybody, Ireland was a great place to leave.
Yes.
I mean, everybody was leaving, and it was like a backwater. And yeah, definitely, the Celtic tiger. It's funny that they picked an animal that isn't indigenous to Ireland. Just saying. Why couldn't they say, you know what I mean? We're not fucking tigers, mate. These guys walking around, dude, you're a heifer or a whatever. But
well, maybe they called it Celtic tiger because it was from outside investment as well.
Well, what it was that if you went at the time, they were talking about China, and all of the kind of Asian economies were ripping ahead, and they were all calling them the tiger economies. And so suddenly it was like, okay, let's call it the Celtic tiger because it's behaving similarly.
Do you know who coined that name?
I don't.
I heard it was David McWilliams, but I'm not sure. He's probably trying to take credit. I was in school with him. He was a year above me. Oh, we were friends for a while, but then he dropped me because he realised I wasn't that cool.
Well, don't worry. I dated his daughter, so I got you back.
Do you know what's what's funny is I was at a lunch last Friday, and David McWilliams was speaking at it. Yeah. So
I remember David actually did a show on TV3, and I thought he was very good at it. And he had this thing where he did with his forehead, where he'd ask a question. Anyway, but yeah, he was quite good. Okay. Celtic tiger. I do remember. Look, I'm kind of excited to have you here, Gavin, because this is your area of expertise, and it's built into the DNA of every Irish person to buy a fucking property. And if you don't have a property, you're not a normal member of society. And do you own a house? No. Do you rent? I do. Jesus Christ, rent. You're throwing money away. But during the Celtic tiger, there was this atmosphere. People were being very extravagant, ostentatious with money, measuring their self-importance by the amount of money. And I think we were all carried away. Like, I had a mate, God love him, he's dead now, but we'd go into town and buy like 300-400 euro bottles of wine and all that, and we suddenly, it's funny how quickly we changed from being a backwater to thinking that we were the sort of center of everything, and that house prices the tide would always rise. It was nobody saw. But I saw. Sorry.
Yeah. No, it's funny because I remember being at a conference, and this was in the middle of the boom, and it was around. I suppose it was probably around 2005 or 2006. So we had a couple of years of this big run, and I can remember somebody had just paid. Oh yes, it was Sean Dunn had just paid 58 million for the property on Shrewsbury Road.
Sean Dunn
was the big property developer who is currently being chased by the bank still, like 18 years later. But he
50. 58.
58 million for a house on Shrewsbury Road, and the house
Just
is
one house.
just one house. And the thing is this was
Prime location.
it was a big house, so there was kind of a view that he was probably going to develop a few. It's funnily
right.
enough, Dermot Desmond has now just built one house on the grounds that site occupied, but it was an old house with a lot of land around it, and he bought it for 58 million. And at the time that he bought it for 58 million, there was all this kind of talk like, oh my God, like it's gone crazy. And I remember I was at a conference, and there was an expert up on stage, and he was talking about like, is this normal? Like, what's the story? How is it that we can, we can think that it's normal for 58 million? And he was kind of saying, well, it does make sense. I can see prices hitting 100 million on that, because there's only something like 20 houses on that street. And Ireland is becoming this like international centre of finance. And if you want to have the best address in Ireland, then there's only 20 of them available, and you have to go and pay what it costs. And so he was kind of now 2 years later, that house was kind of there was guys chasing him around the world to try to get that back, and I think it ended up selling for 18 million or something like that. So 40 million loss on the
So what is it worth now?
Well, it's worth what people have the ability to pay.
Yeah.
So somebody like Dermot Desmond, who's a billionaire, like he can obviously afford to buy a site for 18 million and then spend an enormous sum of money building a big house on it.
I'm just going to say things that pop into my head because Hannah always says like people have to know that we're not that clever here. Like you've got a lot of information, but it's funny the amount of times I walk around Dublin, around place, or cycling around Shrewsbury Road or Aylesbury Road, or just even around here, and you see some of these houses. And it's kind of, I look at them the way I used to look at women, just kind of like, fucking hell. And also, I can't go inside them. Hello. Get on the fucking thing, will you? Yeah, Jack. I'm so sorry, ladies and gentlemen. Unbelievable.
Slow on
But
the uptake.
no, but you do look at these houses. I mean, maybe I represent a large group of people, and like, who the fuck lives in these things? Some of them are quite palatial and quite like mansions. And then I think, probably dentists or probably people who bought them generations ago and passed them on to, I don't know, but it does, sorry.
Yeah, the really big ones like on Shrewsbury Road, they're all, the kind of the top business icons and stuff like that. So you name the individual, like that's the street that he lives on. Do you know what I mean? Whether it's Dermot Desmond or Dennis O'Brien or all of those captains of industry.
Yeah. Captains of industry. They're the but even, I mean, like I'm nearly 60 and I have no chance of buying a house. Well, not the kind of house I want to buy. I mean, the idea of buying a house in, where Leitrim. Sorry. Hello, people in Leitrim, the two people that are watching. And is that the idea? Yeah, isn't it that first-time house buyers, they buy, away from the place that they actually want to buy, and then over a decade they build it, and then they move slowly towards the location where they want to end up in. But why do you think we're so obsessed with actually buying houses? It's not like that in other countries.
I think it probably goes. It's like in our psyche and our culture because of the fact that all of the years that the British Empire kind of took was in control of Ireland, and there was the peasant farmer who basically just had like a little bit of plot of land and stuff. So it was implanted in your head that landlord bad, tenant, kind of wants to become a landlord himself,
Landlord bad, tenant, and just through generations, this horrible reality that you could get fucked out of where you live at any moment. You're just 1 week or 1 month away from eviction. Yeah. So it does make sense that. But even it does make sense, because I'm renting here, and I've been here for how long?
15 years.
12, 15 years. And I always feel that at any moment a letter could come, and I mean that would be that, wouldn't it?
Go. Yeah.
But also, I think that the rent is so high nowadays that if you get a mortgage, your mortgage repayment would be less than your actual rent, because you also get rent
relief and stuff.
And all the kind of stuff.
It has gone like that, and the thing is a lot of people. The problem is in order to buy, you need to have a deposit, and because people get stuck in a trap where there is so much to pay of a deposit, and you're paying so much in rent. that it's very, very hard to actually save up the deposit. So unless you've got help from parents or something like that who are able to say, we don't have a mortgage anymore, so we'll help you, like here's 30,000 or something like that, and you can put that towards your home. A lot of people will struggle just to put that lump of money together. You know?
So this house that I'm living in now, it's probably, what would you say to buy, Hannah?
I'm not sure.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Hannah, you don't have to kind of go like that. I'm a man. I'm not like a. But okay. Sorry, I'm so sorry, Gavin, that you had to see that. No, but let's say 600,000 or something, just at the top figure or whatever.
And it's also crazy, 600,000 for 30 square meters.
Yeah, but it's
the location.
No.
You're
but
looking out,
but
not into even
Hannah,
the sea.
It's
You're
always,
looking out at another building or the van parked outside.
Hannah, you're from Elbląg in Poland. It's like a bomb
We are
site.
obsessed
Okay,
with buying
post-war
houses.
communism. No, listen.
But maybe it'd be a good question to ask. Actually, why are house prices so high? Because I mean, I'm not 100% sure actually why they are so high.
There's a whole load of reasons that kind of go into it. And if you go back, you could have bought this house for probably a quarter of its current price back in 2012, we'll say. So in 13 years, it's gone through this extraordinary kind of jump in. And what happened is it's a whole load of factors. But if you start with the fact that we went through this devastating crash in 2008, and there was no work for anybody, no money from the banks to go and start a construction project or anything like that. So hundreds of thousands of people left the country, went abroad, we'll say skilled workmen, tradespeople, labourers. They all went off either back to the country they were from if they were foreign, or Irish people going to Australia or Canada or the UK or the US. And so a lot of people left. The banks still didn't have any money, so construction didn't start. So we went from building 70 to 80,000 housing units a year to 8,000.
Wow.
So a 1/10, okay?
Jesus.
And yet our population continues to grow every year. Now, it doesn't grow at a huge amount anymore, but it still grows to the point where, teenagers become 20-year-olds, 20-year-olds, they become 25-year-olds, the next minute they're looking to buy, and then every cohort is getting older and they're entering that part of life where now you want to get married, now you want to have children. So everyone's kind of needs a bit more space. And as that goes up, and as the building construction sector is not replacing or building houses to keep up with that, there's a shortage. And so you end up in a situation where there's more people out there looking to rent or to buy than there is properties available to rent or to buy. And so then it's like, okay, well, I'm going to pay more than you because I want it more than you, and maybe I can afford it better than you. And it just pushes, and everyone starts, and once the prices start to go up, the psychology comes in, and you start thinking, oh, if I delay this decision, it's going to go up even more, and I'll be even more out of the ability to do it. And so the whole thing is like a vicious cycle.
And also people, unscrupulous people taking advantage of, what a lot of people consider as a kind of natural, a human right, if you want to say it like that, like a place to live, and people's desperation for a place, people taking advantage of that. Like I remember when we were looking for a place for Daniel, you remember there'd be 30 people queuing up in this big old Georgian house, and they divide them into really shitty small spaces, not well appointed, Hannah.
Yeah. What? No, I just remember that we went to such a small space, then when you unfold the bed was touching the oven.
Oh yeah, right.
Daniel was lying because he's really tall. Yeah. His feet would actually be toasted
in the cooker. Yeah.
No, but what I'm saying is,
but it's true.
No, but what I'm saying is, Hannah, it's like almost imposing depression on people. It's like, I don't know if they're. What the regulations are. Are there regulations, or is it a sort of a grey area in other countries? I assume Germany, they'd look at some of the stuff that they're renting for the price that they were renting. You can't. What are you doing? You cannot rent this piece of shit box to people.
Is it not the fact that there's a shortage, right, as you're saying, of housing? So then landlords are looking at the fact that there's a shortage, so then they start dividing their units.
There's a couple of different ways to look at it. Like, I mean, speaking from, because I have a group of guys that actually are all landlords and they all want to be investors. And we talk about this kind of thing. And the reality is you can look at it as a service that's provided as well. You say you have a house that has, say, 4 bedrooms. You can rent that to a family. Or you can go and you can subdivide that up and you can have 4 individuals or even 5 individuals living in that house, each with their own room, and they just share. And they share like the kitchen or something like that. And there's plenty of people that would kind of say, well, that's good, because if I didn't have that, where would I stay? Like, I have no house to stay. And so what it is if you think about students, when you're a student, somebody comes along and says, lads, I found a house. Let's all move in together. You pay me and I'll pay the landlord the rent. And so so it's just turning that around, and it's just been the landlord doing it and renting it to the individuals. So not one person is on the hook for the whole rent.
Yeah, well, that's one thing, a whole house, bedrooms and a big shared kitchen. What I'm talking about is those small little bed sits.
Oh, yeah. The bed sits are not allowed anymore.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you see, that's good to know, isn't it, Hannah?
Bed sits were...
Hannah?
Yeah. Well, just stop it.
Yeah, but you'd be giving out to me,
I'm
like,
not giving
and then
out
when a man who while Gavin's here, who actually knows stuff, you suddenly get all quiet. Sorry. Hello. Hiya.
I don't know. You just, because you don't have anything to say, we just have to let Gavin also speak. You don't need to interrupt him. Let him finish.
Can you imagine if this actually was an actual TV show on RTE? There'd be people writing in, this is a bloody joke. I mean, forget about Jim Gavin for president. These two should promote Jim Gavin. Anyway, sorry. He owes me 3,000 as well, Jim Gavin, you bastard. So that
bed
was...
sits were banned in, I think it was 2011. And the government brought in rules that basically banned them, and it was up until that point you could have a bed with the cooker and the bathroom and or you wouldn't have a bathroom, you'd share a bathroom with multiple other people, and that was kind of considered to be really depressing and really kind of bad, so it was done away with. And
but I think there's some loophole that they it does it's not allowed, but they are doing, because that's what we've seen. Because by I think they
and it's Gavin's fault as well, Hannah. Attack Gavin. It's his fault.
But I think there are more honest landlords, or the landlords who go to the extent that they squeeze every little penny out of, and it's very, very, we call them.
And I think maybe they're also desensitized. Maybe they do it once, do it twice, and then they just, it's because if I put myself in a position, I would love the idea that people are being looked after and they have a nice space to live in, and it would give me pleasure to know that they're enjoying the space and a fair value. They're paying off my mortgage, right? But then I mean, there was one fucking lanky haired bastard who didn't he rent out a fucking room? It was on the Irish Times, and he put all these
bunk beds in and stuff.
Did you hear about that?
Yeah.
No, but there was
I think I know the fucker. Can I rant here, Hannah?
Yes.
Well, can you?
Yes,
can you not
please.
cut off my flow?
Yes,
Can you play And That's Why We're Not Together? Your hands are cold. Jack, you're really not on this.
Wait. There we go.
Okay, forget it. It's too long. It's too long, Jack. Too long. But and he so there was this guy, and he had a room, an extra room in his house. Put bunk beds in the fucking room. Was it six beds or 3 bunk beds? And then because he was such a pervy bastard, made sure that it was only women who And I see the fucker cycling around, and anyway.
There's a few sides to it, to the story though, because I've rented out. I had a 1-bed apartment on Westmoreland Street, and I can remember I had there was a lady working for me. She used to kind of mind the kids and things like that, and she was Chinese, and she was asking me, did I have somewhere that she could rent? And I said, absolutely, stay in my 1-bed, and you can rent it. And so she moved in, and a few months later, I went around to collect. And literally it had been turned into this kind of like commune almost. And they were going, and she was charging them all. So she was paying me 500.
She was a businesswoman.
She was making about 2.5 grand a month and paying me 500. Yeah. And I was thinking that I was doing her a favor. And next when I go in, so I go in the afternoon, and there's people asleep in bunks. And then the guys that they get up to go to work, and the guys coming home get into the warm bed, and like there was 2 shifts, like basically.
But I
So
mean,
they don't need the heating as well, you know.
And then there was a big pot of rice boiling on the.
but Jesus, it's funny, Gavin. I mean, we were all at the same crack over in London. You know, there'd be 10 of us all sleeping in a fucking room.
Yeah,
and
but
all that.
you wouldn't make money out of your mates.
Oh no, but I'm just saying, you know,
Yeah.
we all needed a place to. Yeah, right.
Yeah, but also there was another funny story about someone was subletting and looking, you know, offering a space in bed.
Oh really? Crikey!
It wasn't even 2 single beds.
It was like
It
you
was
can
a
share my
double bed. Yeah.
But it's funny
it
though.
was serious.
Okay. And I wish I had hypnosis. You know, where you could just go, listen to my voice, listen to my voice, listen to my, and sleep.
Like, you're never happy.
What?
I'm not speaking. I'm speaking.
No,
too
no. I
much.
love you very, very much.
My hands are too cold.
No, no.
My
But
heart
it's
is
amazing though. This guy who rented out that small room, put 3 bunk beds in, so desperate for the ride, you know, so neurologically damaged. You know, I'm not saying he was fucking Ed Gein territory, but he was somewhere, you know, on a spectrum. And he thought, right. I need to get the right. Get the room and put 3 fucking bunk beds and only women, exclusively women. And it's a very myopic vision of entrepreneurship as well. That's the other thing I think. It's like, is that the only thing that people can think in this country? Right, buy a house, rent it out, buy a house, rent. You know, I mean, yeah. Sorry.
Well, I'll tell you one. Well, the perspective is different when you're in the industry. Is that we landlords, like I post on social media, and the amount of
Abuse.
and vitriol. If you read it, like I'm a wanker, I'm this and that, and all these things, and it's like all I'm doing is explaining how it works, and it's like you're doing this to the people of Ireland and all this, and it's really I find it kind of entertaining actually, some of the comments, but there are people out there that are just buying a property as a kind of a pension fund because they don't trust the idea of putting their money in a traditional pension fund where you got fund managers, you know, managing the stock market, we'll say, or whatever. So they say, I just want to buy a house that I can rent, and that's my pension fund, and that's the way they view it. But they are, you know, people consider them to be evil, like, you know, that they're capitalists and that they're, you know, sucking poor tenants, you know, dry and stuff like that. And the reality is they're just like normal people out there, like plumbers and electricians that just don't like the idea of a pension fund. They want to own something that's tangible, and that's kind of more
And
inside.
I think
Well, why are
it's
they
tax efficient as well, isn't it?
Well, I think, is it maybe that people have bad experiences with a landlord, and then they think all landlords are like that. Or
I
something.
think it's
like they're a good and bad.
I think maybe it's a hang up. I think it's a hang up from 2008. I think it's that the greedy bastards of 2008, they were the developers and the landlords and the big investors, and the country came crashing down because of them. And so now you're seen as, you know, part of that kind of cohort that were
I think also the
responsible.
term landlord as well, just even that word landlord, fucking get over yourself, mate.
Who do you think you're a lord?
No, but I think you know, I mean, my idea that the landlord, there's some guy and he's got a shitty little fucking Mercedes, you know, because he doesn't want to hide. He wants to hide the fact that he's as wealthy as a big bunch of keys, and he's just slumping around and collecting the fucking rent, and he's got 20 properties and he bought them all in the 80s, and he's just going to the booking office and he's getting the ride down and fucking whatever. Anyway, but the thing is, I think maybe people get angry because fuck, I wish I'd done that or something. There's maybe a little bit of jealousy.
I see it though, like you have people like, for example, the 2 brothers that started Stripe. Okay, they're both billionaires now.
Collisons.
The Collisons. Okay, they're only
Good friends of mine, the Collisons. Love you guys. Any corporate parties? Yeah, David McSavage. Yeah, I'll do it for 20,000. Okay, sorry. Yeah.
But those guys, like, you know, they've done something incredible. They've built a company up from nothing to being a global sort of leader, and everyone kind of lauds them as like, what amazing guys! Like, they're worth 20 billion, and they're only in their like late 20s or early 30s. And then you go out and buy a property and rent it out to somebody for 20 grand a year. Oh, you greedy bastard! Like, if you just take your house and just rent it at the market rate, you're a blood-sucking gouger. And
I don't think that's true. Do you, Hannah?
Well,
I don't think that's true,
Yeah,
Gavin.
that's sort of, but I think...
I don't think that's
you
true.
know, it's
Definitely
sort of
among
like a
people
victim
minded.
in the sense of the whole perception which is now in Ireland. I mean, the lack of housing, the homelessness, the lack of policy of the government, you know, not having enough investment. And also, I think that we are just talking about small, like landlords, but there are just like big funds and they are trusts.
Well, see, the funds are universally kind of hated because they're even giving them names like cuckoo fund, the vulture funds and the cuckoo funds and stuff. But the thing is that it's actually, and I mean, I'm not excusing those guys, but I know because of the way the economics works that if you want to build an apartment building, it's going to cost you so many tens of millions to build a big apartment building that there is no way of funding that. Like, the banks will not give you the money unless you have somebody arranged at the other end to buy it from you. And so the funds come along and say, yeah, we'll buy it from you. Whereas traditionally the banks, they would give you enough money to be able to sort of put it on the market and sell 100 apartments to the 100 people that live in this area that can all go off and get mortgages. Now the banks are like, no, we're not going to take that risk. But if you come along with one person who can buy the whole thing, oh yeah, no problem. We'll give you the money for
Which
that.
could be a government.
The government are also doing it. The government are buying most of the properties at the moment.
So that's a good deal?
Well, it's a good question to ask. Like, is it? Because this is one of the points that David McWilliams was making last Friday when he was talking. He was saying that, Cairn Homes is an example. Cairn Homes is the biggest house builder in the country. I think something like 87% of all of their revenue came from government sales last year. So that's almost every single property they built is for the government, and the small little sliver left over, that's for the people who want to buy homes. Everything else is all for rental.
By the way, I don't think people look at, just to go back, at people who buy a house and rent it out as gougers. I mean, as long as the house is nice and livable, I think the gougers I think of are the people who just, rent out shitty little places and they don't maintain the place and upkeep, and they fight every single thing. But I mean, you get little shitheads like that in all areas of life, I suppose.
I know from being in the industry, like, that there's the good guys and there's the bad guys on both sides.
Right.
So there's landlords who are very conscientious. They deliver a beautiful house and they put it out there, and then somebody just moves in, and then after a month, I'm not paying any more rent.
Right.
And then they have to take them through the process, and the guys know that the process is going to take about 12 or 18 months to get rid of them. And so 12 or 18 months not paying any rent. And the landlord would lose the house.
Fucking nightmare, yeah.
And
sorry, go on.
no, I just would like to know, because Gavin, as I read, you accumulated like enormous wealth of 60 million. So, and then I just want to know how this happened. How did it feel like? And how did it feel to after the crash?
Well, okay. Well, I think he
yourself
knows
in
the
the-
answer. He gets it.
There is a lot of first of all, there was you have to kind of go back, and I told you about the deal where it went from 25 to 125, and that was the beginning of this.
So how old were
crazy-
you at the time? 21 too?
Yeah, sort of that age. And
Exciting.
it was exciting, and I discovered.
You just like through the money and just.
Oh yeah.
Well, that one deal
Yeah.
was like an eye opener, because I was working as an architect, and if I had stayed working as that architect, I would have had no wealth at all. I was just a tiny amount of earnings potential. But this opened my eyes, and I went, "Oh, if I apply myself to this, I could really like duplicate, make a lot more money." So I bought something out in Clondalkin, and I was just in the right place at the right time, and I made 3 million on that property, and
On just one
in
property?
just one property, yeah.
Well, just let's sit. Just you say, don't say it casually. Just let me sit with that. Hannah, 3 million. What's the most money you've ever made? In fact, there's a guy who won the lottery down the spar shop, and I know who.
He didn't make it. He won it.
I'm just, oh, Christ, you are like the biggest cock blocker I've ever met in my life. But so you made 3 million. It's so exciting.
And it took about 18 months to make that. And in that period of time, like I didn't know I was going to make it at the outset. It was a kind of a gamble, but I bought this property, I split it up, I rented it out, and then in that time frame, everyone was trying to buy the kind of thing that I had created. So I just sold it into the market, and there was guys bidding against each other, and it all shot up. So
that was real cash in your bank account.
Cash in the bank, and then I took that and I went into another deal, and something similar happened again, and I took it into another deal, and something similar happened, and it was kind of like, and this is where
you were thinking to yourself, "Am I God?"
Yeah, it was.
So you've got Midas touch.
I have the Midas touch. I'm a genius. It's nothing to do with the market. It's all my massive intelligence that has created this, and that's the.
Did you honestly think like that?
It's
funny. A little bit like that. A little bit.
Yeah. It's starting to think that. Yeah, it's like you start to think that. Oh yeah, I'll just buy this, and it's like, oh, but that's going to cost you 8 or 9 million. Yeah, the banks will give me the money. No big deal. And it's
now the banks will give you the money because you have this property. So is that the word leveraging? Is that the correct word?
Yeah.
So what is leverage? I don't. Yeah. Sorry. Can you explain to Hannah? Sorry.
You think about a lever as you can use something to lift something much heavier.
Yeah.
Well, it's the same thing. It's you have, we'll say, 100,000. You can go to the bank and say, I'm going to put in 100,000. We're going to buy this property over here. They'll give you 900,000.
Right.
And you're leveraging the bank's money. So basically, you're taking your little bit, but then you buy something for 1 million, 100 of your money, 900 of their money. And if the market goes up 50%, that property is now worth 1.5 million. You sell it, you pay the bank back their 900,000, and you have your 100, but you now also have the 500,000 that increase. So you now have made 600 grand on your 100. And that's how it was being done. And then you multiply that and you go again and again and again. And the problem is that everyone was doing this who was kind of able to do it and knew what they were doing. They were able to talk to the banks. The banks were like, oh, don't worry about the 10%. We'll give you it all. We'll just give you 100% of the money. And then, oh, you've got some expenses and solicitors to pay. We'll give you 110% of the money that you need. Because the property is going up every year.
This sounds like fucking The Big Short, doesn't it?
Well, this is what happened, and this is how the whole market kind of got caught up in this. I bought something,
and they assumed that there was, but were there any
safe.
Sorry.
Within a year, the property market will have risen above what we're lending you, so we'll be okay.
But were there any people who'd been around and who'd seen the ebb and flow and the cut and thrust of financial markets, and they would have known the history? Would they? I mean, there were obviously in that film, Big Short, autistic guy who could see it coming. But did you have any idea that?
I did, but the problem is I was in too deep by the time I realized. And so in 2007, I remember.
You were too madly in love with the idea of making so much money, and you just couldn't break it off with this.
No, do you know what? I had in 2005 I had started buying all of these things, and they were all going up in value. So you kept on buying more and more, and every time you saw an opportunity, oh, I must buy that because that could turn into some really good money. And so you accumulate all this stuff, and then.
So pathological FOMO.
It was, FOMO is what it was. And then suddenly I noticed that the Americans were talking about, subprime mortgages, and all of this. And I remember just thinking, seems like there's a problem coming down the road. I should probably try and sell these properties. But that stage, though, you've got like 20 or 30 properties, and it's quite hard to sell them overnight. And every time I went, I actually tried to sell several properties, and the deals fell over after a couple of months. So one fell over. And
fell over? What do you mean by that?
That the guy that I had agreed to buy it, he got wind of what I was getting wind of, and he decided to pull out as well.
So that's kind of what precipitated the whole thing, do you think? Or supporting it, yeah.
It was part of it. And then it just became like a snowball where everyone was talking about it.
So you have what's known as a portfolio. So you like you said, you had your first rush of success, second, third, fourth, fifth, and so how much were you in? Like how big was your portfolio?
I had built it up to 65 million in total value at the top of the market, And
I mean, so you were aware of that. So you were looking at all your assets and you were making calculations, and you're 65 million. And how old were you then?
35.
But I mean,
How do you live?
no,
How
but
did it
but
express
what
itself?
I'm
Were you
saying,
just, you
no,
know-
what I'm saying is, if you're looking at that and you're, you know, how does it affect you, or like
It does go to the head. Like, this is the thing that now I actually I coach people that are kind of like my 35-year-old self, and those guys, some of them are doing really, really well, and they recognize that what everyone went through in the crash, they don't want that to happen. So they want to have somebody like me who's kind of advising them and tapping them on the shoulder and reminding them, like, no, you're not the genius. You know, we're all fallible. You can make mistakes. So there's a little bit of that. But at the time, first of all, Ireland hadn't gone through this kind of a boom.
Right.
So it was kind of new. There would have been a lot of people in other countries, economists would have sort of said, look, it's happening over there. Like, this is going to be a crash, clearly. But of course, the whole world was kind of caught up in the easy money bubble. And so everyone kind of got caught. But Ireland was particularly bad because the banks were all part of it. You know, they were lending out the money very, very easily. I mean, I remember ringing people up and saying, I want to bid on a property tomorrow. It's 2.5 million probably we're gonna need. Is that okay? Yeah, no problem. Go ahead. And like, there was no paperwork signed or anything. It was just, you go ahead. We'll like shore up the paperwork.
Who was saying go ahead?
The bank manager.
And why were the banks actually taking like that much risk?
Because it was enormously profitable for them.
Yeah.
The way it was working is that, to give you an idea of how these deals were structured, if I borrowed, we'll say 2 million or something like that, the bank would have a fee and they would be looking for probably 2.5% up front. So they would make 50 grand just the moment I borrowed the 2 million. And then there would be interest, and they would be getting a fee on top of the interest they were charging. And then when you were closing the deal, they probably made another 50,000. So they were doing this at scale. So the profits were absolutely huge. And of course, the profits meant that the senior leadership, like the CEO and all, those guys were getting huge bonuses. So it was in their interest to kind of keep feeding the machine.
So, and all that money that you were lending were everyone's savings, and you know that's the money that they were playing around with.
No, the banks were borrowing money from other banks, and
were they borrowing from American banks or?
Some of them were borrowing from the ECB, and so the central bank. You know, the central bank lends money out to the banks at a rate, and the problem is that I think at the time the central bank, the guy in charge of the central bank was kind of from the industry himself. So he wasn't really a guy that was considered to be regulating the industry. Whereas if you're kind of one of the lads, it's kind of, come on, you know, we're grand. Whereas nowadays they have people that are far, like from abroad, so they don't know anybody. And so there's no old pals there that can kind of say, come on, you know, you can cut us a deal. And
so at the height of it, Gavin, so you're looking at your portfolio, and you know, certainly if I was in your position, I'd probably have it. You know, I'd be able to see. I see this much, and calculate. And I don't know how would you? No, I'm just trying to think.
There's a massive amount of coke.
What I would think is. What do you?
I don't know. I just had this idea.
A massive amount of coke.
Yeah.
Like Scarface.
Scarface, the guy.
That's Gavin.
the
what
wolf.
is it?
Because there's like one else.
Say hello to my little friend. But you got to say, I would probably think, well, I can live on that. But then you think, no, I'm 35. This is 65. What, 200 million? I'm going to be a billionaire or something. Is that? Are you thinking like that?
Legacy.
Or are you thinking, Jesus, why don't you just cash out and just live on the old dividends of?
It becomes intoxicating,
right?
And you start to kind of love the deal, and love the intoxication, the adrenaline of I bought this and it's doubled. Yes, you know.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And then when you got a bad deal, and I can remember at times sort of saying, do you know what? I'll wait until it hits this number and then I'll cash out and I'll sort of chill out. And by this stage, I had bought a place in Spain.
What bought a place in Spain? What do you mean?
I bought a villa in Spain, and I had actually relocated to Spain, and I was living down there, and my kids were going to a school in Spain and stuff. And I was kind of, easing back a bit, but then the crash had come.
And so this is an interesting thing. Was it like a crash? Was it a slow motion thing that it's happening, but you can't do anything? You can't I describe when
How fast
when your fucking balls just shut up inside your body and you think I'm dead here, or was it a slow gradual?
It was slow. It was like I described it before as death by 1,000 cuts. It's like you start out, you're invincible. You've accumulated this big, massive amount of money, and you kind of feel like you're special in some shape or form.
Did you have a private jet?
I was offered what NetJets are this company that like they provide private jets and they let you have a fractional share, and they were writing to me saying, "Oh, Mr. Gallagher, would you like us to have a NetJets card and all this?" And no, I never had any of that stuff. But the thing is that it's all intoxicating, and it kind of you feel like you can do all of this, and so it gets to the head. And I can remember thinking to myself, I can probably get out when I sense danger, when I sense there's any kind of a crash, then I'll get out and I'll be quick to sell my properties. And then I started to see, the signs, I think I should start getting out. But it's not always possible to get out the day that you see the trouble. You might, like for example, I was, building something. So it's a hole in the ground. You don't sell the hole in the ground. You finish the building and you sell the finished building. But that's another year away, maybe. And so there was little things like that made it impossible. And then there was things that I was selling, and I achieved a great price, agreed with somebody, we'll sell this for this. And I was thinking, okay, that's a nice big profit. Put that in the bank, pay down some of the loans, everything will be happy. And then suddenly the guy, nope, he's pulled out of the deal. And then you're like,
But he's in trouble as well.
Yeah, he was smelling it as well. And so then another deal fell over. And the problem is these things, each of these take a couple of months. Like there's quite a bit of work in selling these things and getting them ready to be sold. And the thing started to unravel. And I can remember when those two fell over, I remember thinking, I'm in shit now. Like those were going to pay a load of money down, and I was going to get in a much safer position, and now I'm really exposed. And by that stage, exposed is a nice way of saying that you have no money. Exposed,
what does it mean?
as in that these properties are now falling in value, and the amount that I have borrowed, the property is above it, but it's slowly eroding, and once it goes below it, the banks can just sort of say, right, we're taking these properties and selling them, and there'll be nothing left.
So at a certain point, there's kind of like, it's like the Titanic. You can't really do anything. You're just watching
By 20, I remember in 2012, I was summoned to a meeting by the banks in Ireland. I was living in Spain, and I flew to Ireland to meet the banks, and they were like, so Gavin, show us your net worth statement, please. And I showed it to them, and it was minus 16 million. And that's how bad it was. And I can remember they said like, so what are you going to do about this? And I can remember
so you're sitting across the table from who?
From guys that had agreed to lend them.
Right. Yeah.
Does it feel like the mafia a little bit?
No, go on. I just want to hear this. So he says to you, so what are you going to do about this? And then what do you say?
So the net worth was based on multiple properties and multiple loans and stuff like that. But there was one that he had lent me specifically, and it was underwater. And that's what we say. We say underwater. And I think I had bought the property for 2.5. He had lent me 2.3. I'd put in 200 or something. And now the property's worth 1.8. And he was like, so what are we going to do about this? And I was like, well, what do you want me to do about it? It's worth 1.8. And I said, I've got all of these other problems that I'm trying to deal with. So there's not a lot I can do right now. We should just wait and let the market recover. And they were like, no, we want you to sell it. And I said, well, if I sell it, I'm going to take a loss of about $500,000. And he says, well, how are you going to pay us that $500,000? I said, well, I'm not going to be in a position to do it. And so everyone was kind of dancing around.
And what did he say to that? It's amazing. The way banks are like chasing you for this, that and the other. And
€5, but like because you owe too much, so they can't let you.
No, they can make you bankrupt. And, and that is like one of the things that I was looking at. I was staring at bankruptcy in the eye, and I remember kind of thinking to myself, if I don't say the right thing, and behave correctly, they'll just pull the plug and they'll just sell everything on me. So I was being as cooperative as possible, but I also wasn't blowing smoke up their ass. Like,
Right.
I have to, like, it is what it is. Like, I mean, if you sell it now,
So
there's
you-
a 500,000.
So you were showing them all the figures and transparency exactly where we are now. So you weren't being you were being, as you say, cooperative. So you were, is it correct to say, able to avoid bankruptcy? Is that right?
Yeah, I avoided it in the end, but it was only because the market recovered and then all of a sudden the minus 16, that was the lowest point in the market, and then it started to rebound. And I can remember knowing that it was rebounding because they appointed a receiver over one of my properties. And I can remember it was a really profitable. It was like there was lots of income coming in, and it was like something that was really. It was about the best performing asset I owned, and
was that a rental or?
it was a commercial property, and there was a corporate landlord paying rent.
Okay.
And so that rent was coming in. There was no shortages of money from that corporate, and I remember sort of thinking, okay, that's going to save the day because that's really doing well. There's never going to be a problem with the rental income coming from that property. And they appointed a receiver on it. So the receiver goes in, takes the property off me, and then puts it on the market for sale. And there was an understanding that when he sold it, there was going to be a shortfall, and I was going to be responsible for the shortfall. They actually sold it for a profit. And that was the first time the properties were starting to kind of bounce back a bit. And I can remember saying, "Hey, isn't this great? Like it's gone up. Like it's actually." And they're, "Oh, well, we're going to take that anyway," you know. So it was very. They didn't really appreciate the cooperative my cooperative nature. At that stage, they just put new people in.
And can I also ask, in hindsight, let's say when you were at that moment, you know, it's almost like you know, some kind of amazing you know, these online gamers, you know, it's like a weird game. Like at that moment, what could you have done differently to save yourself when you were at that 65 million point? Like what with all the knowledge you have now?
Well, looking back in retrospect, of course, you're much wiser, and you can kind of suddenly realize, like, well, first of all, the music's going to stop at some point.
Yeah.
And one of the big problems that a lot of people made was they weren't buying. The economics were not making sense on day one. The economics were, there was an assumption that, well, the market is going up every year 25%. And so if you buy it now and it seems ridiculous, like you're overpaying, it doesn't matter because the market's going up, so it'll just correct itself next year. And so you might be overpaying today, but by next year you'll be in the money. And so that was the underlying kind of wisdom at the time. And we all know now, like, that the day you buy is the day you sell, as we say, and it has to stack up right away. It has to be cash flowing enough to cover your interest on your bank loan and things like that. And you also have to assume that interest rates do fluctuate. So you buy today and the rates are what they are, but if they go up, you're going to be facing a shortfall. And so it's trying to kind of establish that it's a dynamic market. It's not always going to be going in your favor.
Yeah, the market feels like some kind of, you know, it's almost like a blind elephant, and we're just sitting on top of it and it just moves this way, and people go, ugh, and we don't really know.
Well, I heard something interesting that you were saying about the property market and the way it's kind of cyclical, and there's this like 18-year cycle. Do you think that's going to continue in the future, or?
Do you know, the thing is the 18-year property cycle is a theory, and it's somebody said it to me a few years ago, and I can remember kind of thinking, oh, don't be ridiculous, like, you know, things don't just fit exactly into. But then I actually looked at it when I was creating one of my own podcast episodes. I actually wrote about it, and I remember thinking to myself, whoa, this is strange. This actually does fit the pattern. If you go from 2008, prior to the 18 years back, it's around about the time that the boom began. And you start to realize, and then you say, okay, so 2008 is when the crash took place. What's 18 years after that? It's 2026. So next year, could it be that we have a crash next year? And when you think about, you've got Donald Trump, you've got tariffs, you've got all this uncertainty in the world with, you know, the Ukraine and Russian war and all this kind of stuff. And you kind of go, geez, you know, maybe it is actually, we're due a kind of a crash, and maybe it is going to fit that timing cycle.
But is there anything in the property market in particular that you see now as?
I see a lot of a lot of people struggling to buy properties at what they consider to be a reasonable price.
And I heard something you were talking about. You just mentioned about pension funds and these big apartment complexes and the fact that people can't buy apartments, right? But would it be true to say that the kind of government and whatever, they're building more apartments now rather than houses? So, it seems to me if people are building more and more apartments, not building houses, and people can't buy apartments, that property ownership will decline significantly over the years.
Well, I think it is declining. There is a lot of people building houses because houses are easier to finance. If you build, like, let's say I buy 28...
But you mean the houses like for one person, or house for like apartment?
Oh, I mean houses like traditional 3-bedroom semi-detached houses, like at a housing estate. So you buy 20 acres of land and you say, let's build 100 houses in this estate. It's quite easy for developers to do that because they can build a row of 10, sell them, get some money in, build the second row, get some more money in, and so you keep a lid on your debt.
Oh, okay.
Whereas if you build an apartment building, say 100 units, you have to build the entire building, the lifts, you have to build the car parks, you have to build everything, and you can't sell it until the entire building is complete. And to do that entire building might cost you 50 million.
I heard about you can sell from the plans.
That's not really a thing that you can do reliably here, because when you're selling something, you have to get a mortgage, and the bank don't give you the mortgage unless you have a title deed for the property.
Okay.
And if you're building a building, there's no title deed yet.
Okay, so actually you said a phrase there when the music stops, and it reminded me of that film Margin Call, which is have you seen that film? Have you seen that film? I've seen it about 3 or 4 times. It's so good. And Jeremy Irons is in it, and he's the head guy. And he doesn't really know the specifics, but he just has this general kind of animalistic overall feel of the whole thing and the history of it. And and that idea of the game is over, but the markets haven't realized it yet. But some people know before the markets do, and then he started selling off all their assets, and brilliant film. If we want to get philosophical about it, now you could say, people have a right to live somewhere, and that's why we're very horrified by people who are homeless and have to live outside. And I think maybe it's the idea of people taking advantage of that and making more money than they should. But then you could say, you could hear the argument, people would say, well, people need to eat food as well, and people do kind of overcharge for food and so on. So I think maybe more scrutiny or more ethics are kind of concentrated in the direction of, people who own houses and rent them. Why are you smiling? No, and
because it sounded I took it out from your speech. Either you go to Aldi or Lidl, or you go to Fallon and Byrne and spend all your money.
No, but okay. Sorry. Jump in. I don't know, Gavin. I don't mean to. I'm trying to. But am I saying anything that?
No, there's no wisdom in your words.
Jesus Christ!
I see.
Gavin's like, shut the fuck up and pay the rent, you bastard.
The thing is there's an ecosystem out there, and you've got, how does the house get built? It has to get built because somebody comes along, buys a piece of land, builds on it. Now, you could say that maybe the government should just do that, and it should become kind of like, we provide schools and we provide hospitals.
Right.
So we also provide. But if you were to get into that, then individualization kind of dries up. And so there's a little bit like communism. Like, you want a house, you can live in this place. This is the box that you're going to be given.
Right.
Whereas if you want to go and have the 4-bed or the 5-bed, and you want to have a bigger garden, then you obviously have to go and actually do that yourself.
Yeah.
Do you think like perhaps like development outside Dublin, it needs to be done more?
It's already happening.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is there's a huge ecosystem around property in this country. There are solicitors who make money off of it. There's tax advisors. There's banks. Then you've got all of the builders. You've got the people who provide the services to the builders. Then you've got the marketing people. You've got the agents. like, and then you get the people who furnish the property. So it's a massive.
So yeah, I
industry.
see what you're saying. So we do have to have a sort of a grown-up, realistic approach of, capitalism, and it is a hierarchy. Well, I mean, what I'm just trying to say, but I mean, I think there's people who take the piss. Why I can't fucking can I? I'm trying to think out loud. I'm not clever,
I
It's
know
not my area.
that you're just showing us.
But let's say let's
Stick to the
fuck
comedy.
off.
let's say
Fuck you.
let's say
You
the
can walk out like Ray Darcy.
No, can
from
I
the
also
show.
say, right, so go on, what were you going to say?
I was just going to ask, because you were talking about this right to a home or whatever. Let's say Sinn Féin get in the next general election and they get in the next one, and then over the years they start to, because Sinn Féin do position themselves as like a socialist party, and let's say they implement that further and
Although,
further.
did you see that question that they
Don't-
asked your one, what's your one?
Mary Lou?
No, the Irish president who looks like
Connolly.
looks damp, kind of, she'd kill the
Catherine,
buzz.
yeah, Catherine Connolly. Yeah.
Catherine killed the buzz Connolly, and so you were representing, and did you represent companies that repossessed houses? And she was like, fuck off. And obviously she did, but she didn't want to say she did. But okay, so I
Why
was
are you rushing?
talking to. Oh, do you want to talk about your relationship to Gavin?
What's going on? Now you.
So I was talking to this a friend of mine, and I said I was going to be talking to you, and then can you think of a question to ask? And she said, what are his thoughts on the concept of aesthetics before ethics? In other words, quality of a place should be a primary focus for community development as social behaviour improves when aesthetics are pleasing, Gavin.
Well, it's
God damn you.
If you look at, for example, Ballymun as an area, Ballymun had the Ballymun flats.
Or
where
as
they-
Hannah calls it, Ballymoon. Sorry, yeah, go on.
Ballymun had the flats, and they were like 14 and 16 story flats, and it was really, the lift stopped working and people had to go up and down, all these things. So it had
At
lots
least
of
they were
problems.
healthy.
And people were healthy, is right. They brought horses up into the apartments.
16th floor.
I saw something about that. But and then what they did is they decided, let's take all that down and let's develop. And they got the community involved and stuff in developing the area.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
the type of buildings they want and all that. So I think that's a great idea. At the end of the day, developers, they want to build it, obviously economically. They have to make sort of money, or else they're not going to be in business for very long. But at the same time, they want to be, some of them want to be proud. There's always going to be slumlords that
Yes.
kind of just want to do the cheapest and the dirtiest and just get it rented or whatever. But I think there are people out there who take great pride in their work.
Yeah.
This is just continuing that kind of question, improving the social experience of community and exponentially improves how we interact with our environment. And then she was going on.
Definitely.
No, this is from a mate of mine. If you look at what about Ivy Trust developed welfare housing over a century ago? You can see this, the buildings have huge design merit. I don't know.
That's
no,
so
but-
I don't know.
no, but do you know what it is? No, but you know what it is.
Gavin,
Can I just say,
okay.
it annoys me, the Ivy Trust and, the Guinness family. We live in family. You know what I mean? Meanwhile, we were going, oh, Jesus, Lord, how are you? Oh, we're so glad you've thrown us a bit of money because we're poor. I mean,
You know how much they paid?
What?
45 for the renting of that site of James Gate when they build up the brewery.
Oh, yeah, they for 11,000 years
for
or something.
9,000
9,000 year
years.
lease. I love that. And
£45.
a 9,000 year lease.
Yeah.
It's funny though. You know the way we
It's
talk about.
clever.
You know the way we talk about. Oh Jesus! It's 600,000. 60 years from now or 100 years. I remember you could get a place in Portobello for 10 million. You know what I mean? I guess that's what it's going to be. It's just it always goes like that.
It just, if you think back to, I remember I bought my first house in 1993, and it was 85,000, and
That would have been yeah.
And I lived in it for a couple of years, and then I rented it out, and that's what a lot of people do. They become kind of an accidental landlord, where instead of selling your house to buy another one, you actually just keep it and rent it out. But I rented it to a guy, and he lived in it for 17 years. And in those 17 years, he paid me rent. I never put the rent up. It was the exact same for the 17 years. He never gave me a day's trouble. And then he left after 17 years.
But he looked after the property.
Yeah, he well, I mean, I suppose you might say
No.
he didn't look after the property, but he paid the rent for 17 years, and when I calculate the rent he paid over 17 years, he paid me 3 times the cost of purchasing that property over that 17-year period.
Okay.
So from my perspective, like, it just, that property, when I sold it, it had gone up a multiple of probably 10 in value. Do you know what I mean? Including like the rent that he had paid. And that's the way it's going to continue going, I would imagine.
Could I ask about your redemption arc post-recession? I believe...
redemption arc
is
post
an
is a
interesting
good one, yeah.
But I believe you operate and own East Point Business Park.
I
now?
don't own East Point. Well, we have some... We built East Point,
Right.
and we...
What do you mean we built? Did you have an input? Like...
Yes, I'm involved in the business since the very beginning, and we bought it as a site, and then we built all of the buildings in it.
Where is that now?
It's Clontarf kind of area.
Oh, yeah.
Between
Because
East
it looks amazing. Actually, I've never knew that it's there. I look at the photos, the buildings. It's like sci-fi almost.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, it looks like I've been to Japan and I've seen the similar sites, and it looks
What
so
kind of
advanced.
businesses are in there?
It's a lot of big businesses like Oracle Computers.
Okay.
And all those. Enterprise Ireland are there as well. But like the thing is I think places evolve over time. Like when that was built, it was all absolutely brand new, and then it's now 20 years on, and the buildings are actually quite low rise. They're only like 2 or 3 floors, and now the whole city is kind of starting to accept 8 and 10 floors and stuff. So the place will probably go through another development cycle, and it'll get
So advice for like people like Jack and Daniel. Jack is 26, Daniel is 31. If you want to,
How they can make
would you
60 million?
Well, I don't know. Yeah. I mean, no. I just mean in terms of. Do you think it's important to buy a house, Gavin, or do you think carry on, save up money to protect yourself when you're older if things go south, or what do you think is the best thing to do?
I think getting clarity around what you want in life, because a lot of people, they kind of think, okay, I want to make money, but they don't actually know how they want to make money. You can make money in all sorts of different ways. You can be kind of a creative, like entrepreneurial kind of guy, or you can be a person who's very good at managing, so corporate career is good for you in that sort of situation. You got to get clear on that first.
Yeah, I mean, literally, because if you don't know what the fuck you want.
But this is it.
Right.
And a lot of people like, I wish my son was a doctor, and, so naturally he goes in and studies medicine and stuff like that, and then comes out and like, I have no desire to be a doctor.
Just 2 seconds, 2 seconds. I know who that is. That's Debbie giving me €100.
Is this rent?
Yeah, it's right. Yeah,
She's in a bunk bed upstairs.
the landlady's shaking him down. Yeah. So was the East Point Business Park after the recession, was it?
No, it started before,
right.
And then during the recession it got hit, and a lot of people that had bought the properties there from us, they actually got into difficulty with the banks as well.
Okay.
And so what happened was we actually we had put together kind of a consortium who actually bought some of them back. And
Okay.
like that, so.
Okay. So I was a bit confused though. So the recession happens and you have all these properties, and then the market starts to pick back up. Did you say that the banks just actually took the properties off you, or do you retain some of those properties?
I retained some, but the banks, they like the worst thing about it when you go through the kind of the downfall is that the banks run out of patience with a lot of the people, and they kind of what in my case, for example, I had a property that I had a beautiful home that was worth about 5 million at the top of the market, and I had borrowed money against it, and the banks pulled the plug and sort of said, okay, we're going to force you to sell it. And so I sold that property, and I sold it at the absolute lowest point in the market. They forced me to sell it at 1.5. So from 5 down to 1.5.
Jesus.
That house is probably worth 5 again today, and the bank made me sell it at that. So there was a loss in the loan, and then all of a sudden now it's back up. And so the property, they made me take the loss, and then the market bounced back.
So,
so it's frustrating when they kind of pull the plug on you.
Because of everything you've been through, have you become kind of like almost a Buddhist or something, or have you become? Do you regret what you went through? Do you felt that there's no way you could have learned know what you know now without actually having the experience of?
Yeah, I think the reality is so a lot of people don't realize the value of having some sort of a mentor, an experienced kind of mentor behind you. And like my dad died at 45 years of age, so I didn't have any sort of person who had experience that I would have listened to and kind of went, oh, okay, thanks for that advice. And the problem is that you only have the experience of the last couple of years of your success as a guide. You don't know about, well, the market is going to, crashes every couple of years and you get caught up in all that. So I think having gone through it all now, I'm obviously much wiser, and I offer a kind of mentoring. I give people coaching and I share it on social media. The idea is to educate people that this is what you're doing, but you have to be careful. But
also, so now you would invest. You'd put stuff in gold. You'd put stuff in ETFs and all that kind of stuff.
Diversify, yeah.
Diversify, Jack.
Yeah.
I've been screaming that to you guys all their life. Diversify. Put a little bit of money there. Put a bit of money, because if you put it all,
screaming that, yeah.
But I would
That's
just
funny.
like to know how do you start nowadays in building, let's say, wealth in estate,
in what?
real estate.
Oh,
If you wanted to
Because I don't think the bank's giving the money like they used to, and I don't think you
Aren't
can
there inve- aren't there-
leverage money as well. I think they stopped
I
that.
think there are people inside of the group that I run, and they're all active investors and stuff. And some of them are making some good money. Like some of them have bought things, and they've improved it. One of the things
That means for you, they flipped it.
well, they you don't have to flip it and sell it. You can actually improve the value, and
Okay.
so your value has gone up, and you still have the same size, smaller loan, and so you can have your net worth, we'll say, has gone up, and then you go and do that again and again and again. And there's guys inside my group that are doing really, really well, having done this kind of thing, and just there's a sort of a system, and you just repeat it, and they're making some good money doing that. They're not like gouging anybody. They're not.
they're making some nice places to live.
They're making nice places to live, and there's a huge amount of demand. Like this, for every, I heard somewhere that there was something like 10,000 people trying to rent properties, and there's only something like 100 properties available to
That's
rent.
madness.
So you can imagine the difficulty.
But you can invest in real estate. Like, aren't there companies that you can invest?
They're called
with?
REITs.
Oh yeah.
I mean, REIT means that you are effectively kind of investing in the market, because REITs have lots and lots of different properties, and so you're buying a small unit of that REIT. But if you want to do it the more traditional way, there's guys inside my group that would have like saved up maybe 20 or 30,000, and they'll put that down as a deposit. They'll borrow the rest from the bank. Then they might have like building skills, or maybe they're one or two of them are like plumbers or electricians. They will go in and they will work on improving the house. They might extend it, they might improve it or whatever, and then that house has now gone up in value, and so they can go to the bank and they can say, I've created all this extra value, can you give me some of my money back? And then they can go and do it a second time.
I do. That is very admirable. I see the guy next door is doing that actually. He's I don't know what his trade is, but he's been working for the past 3. You probably hear the drilling in the background.
Yeah.
Actually, it's funny. All over the country, there's a lot of creaking going on. I don't like it. All over the country, there's people working away and doing stuff. But your man, he's been working his balls off, and he's drilling and whatever he's doing, and that's pretty cool. I would love to buy a property and build it and a fixer-upper. I do like that idea.
You're very good. You're very good with your hands,
Um,
as far as I remember.
Creepy in front of your own sons to talk like that.
But
I'm so sorry, Gavin.
it is interesting. Gavin was saying about how landlords are viewed particularly badly nowadays, and I think that is true. Like, if you ask someone my age generally, or in and around my age, you go to Trinity College or UCD, and you ask someone, and their parents are probably could be landlords.
Yeah, but because of experiences like we had with Daniel, because there's a lot. It's like, you know, people go to a theater, and it's shite, and then they think, well, I fucking hate theater because you've had a few bad experiences. But I assume there are. But the thing is,
I'm not asking whether landlords are good or bad. I'm just saying that this particular view of landlords is very prevalent, and as my generation and, you know, people around my age get to the point where they're older, and maybe they'll keep that kind of view of landlords, perhaps, you know, will that change kind of the market or the way we interact with properties?
It's hard to say. I do think that there's just this perception that going out, buying a property and renting it out is inherently kind of bad, and, you know, you're being kind of a capitalistic pig, and it's like a lot of...
I want to be a capitalist.
You want to be a capitalistic pig somewhere. Well, Gavin, have you learned anything?
Yeah, I just have a question, actually. So what do you think is, you know, there's a shortage of houses, we have homelessness, there's new budget, and what do you think should be a you know, strategy of the government to improve the situation?
Well, there's what I think, and then there's reality. And I think what I've been saying for a while is that if you want to make property, housing and all that kind of stuff, if you want that to really start to happen, tax breaks are how it happened back in the 1990s. If you remember back to walking through, I used to walk to Bolton Street across the city, and I'd be crossing Temple Bar, and in the 1990s Temple Bar was an absolute hole. It was a complete kip, and you walked through all of that, and then you'd cross the Liffey and you go up Liffey Street and Mary Street and stuff, and there was just lots vacant lots where buildings had been demolished, and it was just tarmacked over, and it was like a big open car park or whatever. That's what it was like. They put tax breaks in, and people then took interest, and this created kind of like the boom. Now, I know that it's deeply unpopular, the idea of giving developers these things, but if you were to do it, suddenly there'd be an influx of people coming in saying, like, there's money to be made in this game. Whereas at the moment, it's quite marginal. You know what I mean? You go out there and try, like, a lot of projects are just not viable anymore.
But I see a lot of developments like apartments, you know, even, you know, like, to your eyesight, you know, they don't fit. You know, like you go to, let's say, towards,
you mean
towards Hove.
There's a homogenization of all. You could be in any part of the world because they all look the same. You're talking about the aesthetics of the things.
No, not even aesthetic. Maybe it's not that bad, but it just does not fit into environment. You know,
but
you've got like
but,
Hove, on the left side when you drive up, it's just you know, blocks of apartments.
Yeah, I know.
I
know. But that's if you go down to the port there, Dublin Port, and you see all that kind of dystopian kind of architecture or whatever, and it looks like it could be anywhere in the world. And but I assume, you know, like those big corporations, and they're doing big deals. Who knows what's going on? But I wouldn't look to big corporations for
guidance. That's what you want to say?
Yeah, but you were saying that. You were saying they don't fit in with the background, with the area that they're being built in. Isn't that what you're saying?
Yeah.
And there's no third spaces for fucking children to run around.
No,
Mommy, can I have an ice cream? What?
No, because because
those people don't care.
I think that they fit that. The
Docklands do suit that, yeah.
But like, you know, you go to Hove and there's a lot of development, you know, and it as a, you know, like as an architect, you would say they shouldn't be there. Maybe they should look differently.
I'll tell you what.
But they probably building it because they want a lot of people in a smaller space, and maybe it belongs to government and they can build it and they house people.
There are, if you're buying a site, like you find a piece of land that's for sale, what's for sale is what's for sale. Like if it's a rectangle, you can only build inside of that rectangle. You might say in an ideal world it would wrap around and it would go over to this other area. Then you also look at what's in the area. If you're in Howth, you've got the dart line there, and so if you're very close to a dart line, the planners expect you to build much higher density. So instead of building like 2 stories, they'll expect you to do 4 or 5 stories because you're close to the dart line, so you can fit more people in. And so that's kind of, it's not always in the hands of the actual developer. Sometimes his hand is being forced by the rules around densities and all this. I know we bought a site that would have been perfect for, say, 5 houses, but we were forced to build 32 apartments on it.
Oh,
And
right. So there is regulation. So you see, I don't know about it.
Yeah.
Unless you're in the business.
There is.
Well, before you start attacking our guest, maybe you should
I'm
have
not,
done.
but like you just didn't let me even.
I know.
Say what I wanted
No,
to say.
no, it is a very good point. You make
By
a
the
very
way,
good
it's
point.
an hour and 20 just for your
Okay,
parking.
okay. By the way, can I just say, Gavin Gallagher, if anyone's interested, and you should be, if you want to know how to create wealth or understand property or whatever, this is the guy. And GavinJGallagher.com, isn't it?
Gavin J Gallagher.
And you've
on
got
social media.
And you've got a podcast.
My podcast is called Behind the Facade.
Right, Behind the Facade. I'd love to know what's going on.
What's going on behind the facade?
But I do. I almost thought that you'd say on this podcast, "Oh, you want to buy a house? Listen, come here.
We're gonna sort
Wait, this is
it.
what you have to
Deal.
do.
Let's do a
Right,
deal.
you have to do this, and that. You see? Oh, fuck, is that all? Jesus, just ring up the old bank, man.
Yeah, but I wanted to hear the answers to a question is, will we be better off when Sinn Féin invariably win
jeez.
the general election and they give us
They won't
social,
win
so
anyway.
everyone has social housing.
The thing, it's funny because if you look at the policies that they're kind of saying, some of them make sense on paper, but the economics of them just don't always stack up. And so I know somebody, I think it was one of the big builders or whatever, was kind of calling them out, saying that it's all fine to put it down as a policy document, but if you can't actually implement it because the viability of the economics don't add up, like it's not going to work, you know.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much.
I just want to. Can I just say something?
Fuck
I know
me.
you're rushing.
Fuck me.
I just
Rushing.
wanna-
We've been here for an hour and 20 minutes.
Okay, I know you've got a special
Yeah,
goal.
yeah.
But
You
I
have a
just want
special.
to say
Do you want to
something.
talk about your relationship?
No, you're just repeating
Go on.
yourself. I just want to say that I've seen Gavin's beautiful film, celebrating your wedding with your wife,
saw that.
Elga, and it's really
interesting.
touching and beautiful. And I would like to congratulate you
Thank you
because
very much.
it's just simply beautiful.
Oh,
Yeah, well,
appreciate it.
okay. Well, there you go.
You
On that,
always need a good woman behind you, don't they?
Of
That's
course,
what they
very
say.
much so, yes.
that's a very modern, a good woman behind you. Jesus Christ. To all the woke Trinity students, we apologise for Hannah's old-fashioned
I
and
think you're
outdated
talking.
view.
I think you're talking about
this.
pegging, Hannah.
Hang on.
Okay, for God's sake, thank you, Jack. Thank you, Daniel. Thank you very much, Gavin. I appreciate your time. Thank you, Hannah. And we'll all see you again next week. Thank you.